today's date, October 22nd. And the first order of business is to approve the minutes from July 30th. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor for aye?
Aye.
Ayes have it. And we're gonna change the order up because we have a staff member who has to take care of some family duties. So we're gonna move item number 3 up one slot to the number 2 slot. So we'll hear from staff to provide an update on the proposed animal control facility and discussion of potential ordinance revisions. Are we ready?
I'll give you an update real quick on the animal shelter, where we're at that. We have a bid out right now for an architect. We had a very good visit to an animal shelter that staff had previously visited. Myself and Tom went up there with the shelter, North Carolina. Be blunt, I'd just like to copy it and drop it right here. It's what we need. On that visit, we spent some time with the director talking about what he would change, what he would do differently. They've been in there now maybe about a year and a half, 2 years, something like that. He made a comment. He said, you know, we didn't get the last wing they wanted on the facility. He said, I'm glad we didn't. I don't think our staff could have handled it, or we could have handled it. That resonated with me. As we walked through the facility, it was a good facility. It flowed. And you don't really understand what the term flows mean until you walk through the intake process for animals, the medical, where they're treated. There's a flow to the building. And this had a great flow. We want to make sure, and this has been something that's tossed around all the time, we're not going to try to build a shelter to house all the stray animals of York County. That's not what we're doing. We need a good shelter for our employees, the volunteers that work up there, and for the animals, and ultimately it benefits the citizens of York County. The size of the shelter, you look at the number of kennels, it's going to be proportionate. Greenville County just expanded theirs. We're going to be in line with theirs. We're about half the size of Greenville County. Lexington is doing a new shelter. We're going to be probably a little small on that. They're a little bigger than us. This is not about the size of the shelter as much building the proper facility. That facility just, it's not a good facility. It's not a good facility to work in or keep animals. We've had some discussions internally, particularly about the animal count. I'll give you all a high overview of sort of where we're at, and we're getting this little segue into this. We've got space for about 110 dogs, okay? We've got about 40 that are court cases. Can't touch them. We got low 30s, something like 33, that are holds. You pick an animal up, stray up, you can't do anything with it right away. You got to wait 5 to 50 days before you can do anything, depending on a variety of factors. You can't do anything with it. Y'all can do the math. That doesn't leave us a lot for other animals. Again, we're not trying to build something to house all our animals. We want a better facility, staff, the volunteers that work up in there, the animals themselves, and for the citizens, and that's what we're going to present to you on. That's what this design is going to be all about. Our euthanasia rates are up right now, and I don't suspect, honestly, they'll come down. We talked earlier today about that, and that's just the nature of what it is. The shelter won't fix the euthanasia rates. There's other things that need to be done to address the animal population in the county that, honestly, staff doesn't control. Y'all have some control with different things you can do through ordinances or whatnot, and we're going to sort of go through some options you might have to deal with that. And ultimately, at the end of the day, if council is fine with the way it is, that's where we stay. If you'd like to sort of take some of the steps some other counties have done, I'll walk through what management, what myself would feel good recommending, and what, honestly, what I wouldn't feel good recommending to y'all to do with this. Can you click through that, Karen? Okay, this is sort of, I'll try to stay still. This is sort of where we're at with everybody else. We're on par with all of these, okay? Outdoor female dogs, okay? You keep a female dog outside, she's got to be fixed. No sale of pets in public place, trap, neuter, and release, okay? We do all those. Everybody does all those. You get into here, these are the things, you know, really want y'all to talk about. Breeder registration, pet registration, pet limits, okay? Now, breeder registration, if you're going to breed animals and try to make some money breeding animals, that is something management would recommend to council. Y'all consider, okay? If you're going to be in the animal breeding business, you need to register as an animal breeder in the county. I think there's a lot of merit to that. The pet registration, and you'll see some of those say licensing. You know, that's something Josh and I talked about this afternoon. We really couldn't wrap our head around something that's gonna be, that we, as citizens, would feel good telling you, you know, license your animal or this or that. We don't really have an answer for that we recommend you right now. I'm not saying that's permanently off the table, but that's not something right now we can recommend. Same thing with pet limits. I can't come with that. Now, I'm gonna add to that list, and this is just to treat the genders equally. You're gonna keep your animals outside. Management would support recommending getting both females and male dogs fixed. I think that just makes a lot of common sense, okay? So those are the things we'd like you to consider as a committee of what you might want to take towards council. Those are steps that y'all can do that can address the animal population in York County. Okay, we're in a tough spot right next to Charlotte. We got a lot of benefits of that, but we got a lot of downside too. My son's baseball coach had 2 dogs dropped off at a street out in the country. He lives down in McConnell's. Happens all the time. You know, those ended up at the shelter the next day. So, you know, whatever we can do that's reasonable. You know, I think what we'd recommend to y'all is reasonable. But again, that's up to y'all to decide. Everybody's got a personal threshold. A lot of ways, I sort of equate this to guns. You've talked about this. Don't pass a law you can't enforce or something like that. Same with guns, you know. I got all my guns, well, we're not gonna get too far down that subject. I'm from Texas, so I got a lot of guns. But those are personal freedoms and personal rights. That's what I want to tell somebody the magic number of dogs is 2 or 1 or 5. There's a variety of reasons why somebody might want to keep multiple cats or this, that. We wouldn't want to get into that. And Josh and I both struggled with the pet registration and licensing because that's a very complicated subject, and we don't have a package we could recommend to you that we would fully support. So, you know, where we're at with that, again, is the breeder registration. You're going to breed animals to make some money. We think it's reasonable that you register to do that. And again, be fair on the genders. You stay outside, whether you're male or female, you're going to be fixed. So, the animal shelter itself, like I said, we have the design bid out. We're going to get that back here in a couple weeks. We're going to probably come to y'all in December with a recommendation of a handful, maybe 2 or 3 designers that we'd like to be able to negotiate with. We're going to negotiate with those. We expect to come back to you in January with who we'd like to work with designing what we need. I'll put it out there to y'all as well as the other 4 council members. If y'all want to organize a trip to go up to North Carolina, what was the county again? Guilford County. They'd welcome any counselors come walk through it. And what you'll see, and I'd really think it'd be great, particularly on this committee, if you can take a trip up there, to understand the importance of flow. And, you know, where you got people where dogs, animals are passing, where just people pass, you know, and the best thing about that shelter, because I've been to a lot of these, the smell. When you walked in, you weren't gagging by the smell. They seem to have got that right. But I want to extend that invitation. If that's something this committee as a whole maybe wants to make a field trip to, let us know. We'll work with y'all. We'll work with Guilford County. They're very willing to entertain other people. They put a lot of time and effort into what they built, and they did a very good job. Very good job. So I'd love for y'all to see that. So that's the end of my presentation. I'm open up any questions y'all might have.
Well, Guilford County, that's at the very top of North Carolina, isn't it?
What's that?
Isn't
the
that at
middle.
Where's it?
In the middle.
Okay, okay. We've, in the past, we've talked about pet registration, we talked about pet limits, and like I say, those are some of the things that I think just fell off the table quickly. People have asked for it, but it gets down to how do you, don't put something in place you can't enforce. And we don't have staffing to be able to go around and take dog counts, take cat counts. Registration, if someone's in the legitimate business of breeding animals, they shouldn't have a problem with registering that business. Just like someone running a storefront. You shouldn't have a problem registering your business, whether it's with local government, state government, because if you're doing this, you should have some proper documentation, because, you know, people pay good money for pets and animals, and if you want a good bloodline animal and you're paying good money for it, you want to know that's from a reputable individual, and if he don't want to take the time to register his business, I'd be kind of skeptical of spending good money for any kind of animal. So that's something that we probably can have the conversation on breeder registration.
Okay.
And it keeps people, and I know we got a lot of great people that work in the field with animal rescues and stuff. If a person's legit, there's no reason for people to keep going by checking to see how many they got. If they got a legitimate registration, you know, that's one less check. I mean, that's one more check that frees them up to go look at other things that other people are doing. So
Yes.
I think we can have that conversation.
What about the male, female, treating them the same? Okay.
Now,
All right, well, we'll come back with y'all. We're gonna be meeting regularly as we go through this process. We'll work with legal on sort of putting all those to ordinances, you know, the devil's in the detail. We'll put together some stuff, and again, I'm gonna take the approach, you know, I wanna put together something that passes the common sense test, that makes sense. So we'll work on getting that together for you, and when we've got that ready, we'll meet again and we'll walk you through what we've got in those ordinances, and then y'all can sort of decide to make any changes or whatever, and then move it forward to council as a whole.
What about at Guilford County, you know, you said they got this awesome shelter. How do their ordinances look? Do they have, I know we compared with South Carolina stuff, but did y'all just happen to check theirs? Because, I mean, they seem to, sounds like they put a lot of thought into what they're doing up there.
How that particular shelter got picked, I'm not sure. That was originally visited a year or so back, but it's probably because it was a good shelter. Eric, any particular reason why that one got picked? Bobby, did that just jump out?
It was similar growth. It was built around the same time we were looking at animals. As for ordinances, South Carolina law, which there's our state law versus North Carolina
Right.
law, is completely
Yeah.
oranges to apples. So
Okay.
all of our ordinances reflect off of our state law. Theirs are completely different in line with.
And,
Okay.
you know, the ordinances, we're gonna try to piggyback off some of those we think they got it right. But every county's ordinances are a little different, and I expect ours will be as well. But again, we'll deliver to y'all an ordinance that we can recommend. And then we'll just have a discussion about it, just like we did the local vendor preference with that committee. And we'll come up with something y'all can support for council.
What about these ideas on the last slide?
You know, those are ideas and thoughts. Any of those that y'all are a big fan of or want us to drill down into further, we can certainly look into. You know, those are, you get into more difficult things. Those are more one-off, that not, you know, I'm not saying most of the counties are on board or that's been very successful. You know, the additional fines for this and that, some of those I think are worthwhile. The cost of care, I'll tell you right now, we're struggling with that. That's a burden on staff as well as legal to keep track of that. But, you know, I want to take the approach with the animal shelter and what we can do to control animal population. You know, this is not a one and done type thing. If we can take care of those two and get an ordinance on that, we'll get that done. And then we can sort of, you know, talk about some of these, maybe we'll drill down. Those are just things certain counties have done. If you go through the list, I don't think you've got one that more than two of those have done that. So those aren't anything necessarily right now, honestly, I'd want to take forward and push to our council. If we can get those two things done, I think that's a big success. Let's get that done, let's get that working, and then we can circle back and see if there's anything else that makes sense.
Well, I was just wondering about, I mean, somebody obviously spent the effort and thought enough of them to put them on a slide, so
Yeah.
I was, you know, I would look for y'all's direction on, hey, some of these are worth going after. I don't know if any of these will work. I mean,
Yeah.
I couldn't even begin to guess at any of them, so.
The-
But because they're on this list and somebody thought about them, I would like to know more about ones that
Okay.
have I guess, a better than 50-50 chance of actually helping what we're doing.
Let me do this. We'll email to the entire committee a narrative on each of those that management feels like might have some merit, okay? So we'll put that together and we'll get you an email out before we next meet on what we might think would have merit. Because, you know, again, I go through this list, management might not feel comfortable recommending all those. I don't know all these like the back of my hand. Bobby's the expert on that. But we'll put together a narrative on each of those that management sort of feels like might have some merit. And we'll talk about it the next meeting. That work?
Any idea what they spent on that shelter that you was talking about?
13 million.
Yeah, let's drop.
Now,
yeah,
that
let's
was,
drop
that
in.
was before COVID,
Yeah,
okay?
let's see if we can drop that on somewhere off on Highway 5.
Listen.
We'll take it today.
And I've said this about the cost of the shelter from the beginning, no different than the coroner's building. You know, we're gonna build what we're gonna need. We have seen, just like with the coroner's building, budget $7 million, you'll see right now still some of Tom's Thunder. That's coming in right now at $6 million in total. including FF&E, everything. We're literally that much under budget. We're coming under budget on a big project out at River Hills that came before y'all. If y'all see some of those things, we talked with the budget. We've seen the construction bids get a lot bigger. We had some success on the Taba Bend projects coming in under as well. Since we've had, since COVID and the inflation, things have stabilized and are starting to get more competitive, and we're more and more consistently seeing things coming in under budget. I'm not gonna make any promises when it'll be, but I'll tell you right now, I'm not gonna bring you anything that's gonna be over $20 million. I can tell you that. It won't be over that. But if there's some things that we truly need, and it might be above that 16 number that everybody sort of hangs up on, if I truly believe in it, I'll come to you and I'll explain to you why I think this is worth that money. But again, we're gonna deliver to you a shelter that York County deserves, and that's gonna be it. When we get everything designed, we'll have a number, but guess what? Until we go out to bid, we won't have an actual cost. So I'm not losing sight of the cost bump, I promise you,
Yeah, you see my eyes when you said 20, I'm like, I thought we
Yeah,
were a little low on it.
I got you.
All right, well, don't mean to cut you off, your 15 minutes up.
Okay, all right. Thank y'all very much, and we'll get that email out probably within a week or so, okay? Thank you all.
Thank you.
All right, so we got that one, so we're going to,
Stormwater.
yep, we're going back up to 2. Staff to provide an update on the Regent Park stormwater study. Jonathan, take it away. You got 15 minutes.
All righty, we'll try. So we're here to talk about the Regent Park flood mitigation study. If you recall, there was a significant rain event in January of 2024, and this photo is showing some of the flood impacts to 2 of those homes in the Regent Park neighborhood. So just a refresher, this has been an ongoing cycle for a couple of years now. So due to repeated flooding events and some complaints over a number of years, council funded an original study to the tune of $113,000 to do some mapping and evaluate the flood risks beyond what FEMA has mapped in the Regent Park neighborhood. So that study was completed in 2023, and it delineated those floodplain areas, both the 100-year and 500-year, outside of what has already been mapped by FEMA. So in January of 2024, as I mentioned, we had that very significant rain event, and it caused a lot of flooding in Regent Park. York County received at least 8 calls from different properties that had flooding issues ongoing that day. I'm sure there were others that did not call. And there was also reports of Regent Parkway being overtopped. So in June of that year, County Council adopted updates to the flood damage prevention ordinance. And as part of that, you all adopted the mapping effort that was done in Regent Park. So that area of additional floodplain is now a part of our ordinances. On the heels of that, to explore how we might mitigate flood risk in Regent Park, Council also funded an additional study to the tune of $40,000 to model and evaluate some potential mitigation options to reduce that floodplain in Park. And in May of this year, that mitigation study was finalized. So here's the purpose for that study. It was to evaluate the impact of specifically county infrastructure on the Regent Park neighborhood flooding that was ongoing, and specifically the Regent Parkway culvert. You see that pictured here, that cross-line culvert. So while the analysis was underway, the consultants looked at it, and as they were doing their modeling for different mitigation, they discovered that there wasn't any mitigation solution that provided a material improvement to the flooding situation that involved exclusively the county infrastructure. So they broadened their scope to elements immediately impacting that county infrastructure piece. So the study was meant to evaluate some different mitigation options. What's not part of this is looking at other infrastructure pieces, whether it's private or other cross-line components in that neighborhood. So here's some of the key findings in that report, and you all should have a copy of that now as well. It's a rather lengthy technical document, so feel free to take a look through it. If you have any technical questions, feel free to reach out, let us know, and we can follow up with some answers on that. But here are the key findings. So as I mentioned, any mitigation option that was just on the Parkway culvert had a negligible effect on the floodplain in that area. And that's because there's a upstream homeowners association culvert immediately adjacent to the county culvert there. That's kind of constricting the flow of water just before it hits the county infrastructure. So the study looked at 3 different alternatives. The first alternative was to just remove the HOA culvert and restore the stream channel where that culvert is currently located. And that lowered the flood risk, and by that I mean it removed entirely 8 residential structures and 3 empty lots from the 100-year mapped floodplain. With alternative 2, and that includes starting with the HOA culvert removed and the stream restored, if we also, on the heels of that, increase the capacity of the county Parkway culvert from the single 6.5-foot metal pipe that's there currently and replacing that with 2 12-by-8 box culverts, that lowered the flood risk for just 2 additional residential properties. There was a third alternative that took both of those improvements and then also looked to lower and widen a spillway upstream, but that had no material improvement, so that option is not really considered going forward. Another key finding is from the cost assessment there, the cost to upgrade that Parkway culvert is going to be significant. I'll get to that in a second. So here's the flood inundation map. This is existing conditions. So you see the blue fill there, that's the FEMA floodplain that's been mapped by the federal government. The blue outlined areas are the 100-year floodplain that our consultants did for us back in 2023. So that's, the reality on the ground. That's what the floodplain is. The gold area, that's the 500-year floodplain. All of the red blocks in there, those are structures that fall within the mapped 100-year floodplain. In terms of alternatives, if the HOA removes their culvert, it removes these properties from the floodplain. So those are the properties that would be removed from the floodplain. They would get a benefit from the HOA removing their culvert. If the county also, on the heels of that, did a significant improvement to the Parkway culvert, those 2 additional homes would be pulled out of the floodplain. So here, the HOA has the option, if they'd like to pursue that, to remove the HOA culvert and restore the stream channel. The consultants did a cost estimate on that of $500,000. I think the HOA has gotten the scope of work and a cost estimate that's much lower than that. They're certainly free to do that and solicit any cost or any provider that they can find. And we've heard very recently from their board that they have voted to remove that culvert. Well, the county mitigation options that we're left with then, we could improve that culvert and do a significant project there. The estimate, the opinion of probable cost for that is $3 million from our consultant. And like I said, that would reduce the flood risk for 2 additional homes. And it is contingent upon the HOA culvert being removed and that stream channel restored first. Another alternative that the committee might consider is exploring the creation of a floodplain buyout program. And this is where the county would step in and acquire properties that are prone to flood risk and repeated flood damage. So this is a voluntary program. There's a lot of jurisdictions that utilize this type of program. And you really want to have it be very structured. There, you want a scoring system so it's equitable. You want criteria for eligibility. And you really want to utilize the property to either restore ecosystem, preserve open space in perpetuity. You could even make it into a public park, depending on the property that you're buying, and stream restoration projects, things like that. There are funding sources available for that, for grant funding. Typically, they do require some kind of local match. There are some that might not have a local match, but traditionally, they do have some skin in the game for the local jurisdiction. So the cost estimate for that is going to be on a per property basis, obviously, depending on the value of what's there, the fair market value of what someone could sell on the private market, and any costs that might be involved after you acquire the property, whether it's demolishing structures that are there or doing any restoration efforts. And it's highly recommended that if we explore that the program meet FEMA standards so that we're eligible to get that funding to help defray those costs. With that, I'll take any questions, and I've got Mark Boland here for any technical questions beyond my capability.
I just saw it firsthand. I actually had to rescue a mom and 2 kids during that flood, so it was very traumatic.
In the existing conditions, how many houses or structures and properties are impacted?
I believe that number was 66 total that are mapped inside of this 100-year floodplain.
So, 60, well, how many are impacted that would be, like a lot of these aren't, they're kind of outside the scope of what we're looking at?
That's right. So not all of those would be impacted
I'm trying to
by
figure
that
out, you
stricture
know,
point.
Are all of the ones that are, you know, it says we're removing 8 with alternate, I think, 1 or 2.
Yeah.
So that, it looks like, based on this map, that we would be removing just about all of the ones that were impacted except for the 2 or 3 that are down there at the bottom near the purple. Is that correct?
So so the ones that would be removed are the ones that I've highlighted there in both the pink and the purple. So it's about 10 properties total with both improvements,
Okay.
or structures, I should say.
And do we happen to know what storm event the road floods for? Does it meet a 25-year design?
Depends on their
or-
design.
Okay. So for all intents and purposes, the road itself is surviving, you know, per standards? Okay. Well, I don't know about y'all, but I particularly like the FEMA buyout. I think, do y'all know if I think Rock Hill has a buyout plan, don't they? I know Charlotte does, for sure.
Right.
I want to, because I worked on a project with them that we were going to buy some out over, yes, I can't remember, some low-lying area. I can't remember where it was, but
Yeah.
I don't know if that was a one-off or something else.
I was asking David, how would the Rock Hill buyout plan or program help in Fort Mill? Or just saying this?
They have a, if they have a buyout, they have a program already. We can model
Right,
ours
right,
afterwards,
okay,
after.
Gotcha.
And just to see how it works out for them. I mean, they can give us some feedback
Right.
on how it's helped them.
So I guess what I took from this was that the culvert is impacting or contributing to some of the flood areas. So we're looking at removing, possibly helping the situation by removing the HOA culvert and replacing it with, I think it's at 2 8x or whatever.
Yeah, so it'd be 2 distinct culverts there, and they kind of face each other. You see it on the last slide pretty well, I think. So the HOA culvert is on the left there, and then the county culvert is on the right. You can see they feed directly into each other. So one would be a private project where the HOA would remove their culvert, and they daylight that stream, restore it to natural conditions, and then that would take care of 8 structures. The county wanted to help with 2 additional structures. We'd have to significantly upgrade that existing culvert.
Anything else on this that you need?
I mean, what do you want from us, Jonathan?
Or just for information?
I mean, do we make, you want a motion?
This is discussion, so if you'd like to explore budgeting for the project. That's certainly a significant conversation and a longer one to have coming into the budget cycle, something you want to keep in mind. But if you'd like us to start exploring a buyout program, we can certainly start doing that. There's
I
no
think-
harm
I
in
think
doing
it'd be
research
a
on
good-
that.
Good start for you guys to look in to see what Rock Hill has, and if it's like Andy said, if something we can basically copy and implement to help with this situation, instead of trying to reinvent it, if it's already programs or something in place that we can mimic to at least help us help this situation versus it's all being on what we can budget and what we can do. If there's any money out there that can help us accomplish this, by all means. You know, I guess one of the rules in this business is spend somebody else's money. So I guess we'll be in that boat now, trying to look for some assistance with this. Well,
Okay.
if there's nothing else on this topic, we'll go to staff to provide an update on the proposed coroner's office.
There we go. Okay, so I think last time we spoke with you at a workshop was when we were in early design on this project. And you may not remember what all we spoke about, so I'm going to just a little background on it. The cover sheet right here is just a rendering of what the final building will look like. Here's a floor plan. I just want to give some highlights on the floor plan, and we've been working closely with the county coroner. We have plenty of office space for current and growth. We'll also have evidence storage, and on-site, this is something new. They don't have it in their current facility, is a freezer and also a cooler. I'll show you next on the site plan, but there's also at the bottom of the page, you see Sally Port. Where the building is going to go is directly behind the existing family court building in Rock Hill on Main Street. So there was a big cost savings there because we're using county land.
That's good.
There's a kind of bird's eye view of the site plan. Just want to point out some highlights. As you can see, if you guys are familiar with the backside of the family court, there's a access road on the backside closer to the Petco complex that staff drives into. So we're going to build a new road for access to the Sally Port. The Sally Port will be a drive-through. And kind of hard to see on this, there's going to be secure parking for staff. That's kind of the upper group of spaces, and then there'll be plenty of space for visitor parking. Here's some renderings, just to give you an idea what the building's going to look like. That's at the entry side. And this is the view from the side that you can see the drive-through Sally Port. The colors and the exact look isn't exactly what it's going to look like. This was early renderings. But I just wanted to show you just kind of a visual. So here's what I'm here for tonight, is just give you a project update. Back in May is when council approved the bid. It went to J&B Services. We're just now going to start construction because we've been going through final permitting, and all that was approved in October. So we actually just when you look at the schedule, we just had the pre-construction conference this Monday. Going back to budget, and Kevin kind of stole my thunder a little bit, but when we spoke with you, I think it was last April, last time we came to a workshop, we had a budget just under $7 million. You asked us to really work through the design and look for cost savings. We did that. We heard you, and we did that. Our bid came in, and with the added other costs that we call, IT, testing, inspection, things like that, it comes in right around $6 million. So working through all that, and we were able to come in $1 million below our original budget. So just wanted to share that with you. So we've already issued the PO for J&B Construction. This is it's going to go over 2 fiscal years on the spending part. Going back to schedule, the notice to proceed is actually October 27th, but actual construction is going to start November 2nd. So we're going to start in November, and coroner should be moving in after March. So if anybody has any questions.
What kind of things did you remove to get the budget down? I'm just out of curiosity.
Couple Ron
Or-
here with
or
me.
changes.
It's been a long design process. I think it was just working with the coroner and just making different decisions on interior of the building. I honestly, I can't pinpoint exactly what it was, but. What's that? Okay, the square footage, which drives, yeah,
Okay.
so.
Anything?
No, I think it's great.
Yeah, we're looking forward
Thank
to it.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
I do want to go back, I know Bobby was here, and I didn't know if you had anything you wanted to add to Kevin's presentation or any information, any kind of updates for us.
I'm just here for your questions. If you had any questions about the presentation, more than glad.
Okay. I know last time when we did meet, I know you kind of gave us a little impromptu update as to some of the numbers that we were seeing up, down, or what we're seeing in the animal control world. You care to speak on any of that while we're here?
As far as population count for animals, it has been consistent. It remains consistent across the board, across the United States. In all states, we're all seeing an overflow, and we don't see it going down anytime soon, which I believe is why Kevin was speaking a little bit to taking additional measures with maybe the ordinances that you all had asked for previously. In the presentation, what I tried to do was listen to what you all asked for previously, where you wanted to know what other counties were doing, and put that together in a sequential step so you could see how other counties progressively, as they hit a stop fall where they weren't seeing improvement, what they next added in. So you could see that the one-offs at the end were things that people put in that they felt had made an impact, but it wasn't more than a couple counties had done it to give you a true picture.
All right. I know one of the things that we brought up at our last Public Works meeting was trying to come up with some programming to get some funding to some people.
I have a sheet for you if
Okay,
you don't mind.
yeah.
I actually made a copy for each of you in case you asked for it. So this is the group. I'll try to talk a
Thank
little
you.
louder so they can hear it. This is the group, Project Safe Pet. They coordinate within our community and do a lot of outreach and support for citizens. I asked them to put together an informational sheet for you all. There you go. And I also, back over here first. I also asked them to put a financial together on the second sheet so that you all could have a good idea of, for discretionary funds, if you were looking at that, what you might like to contribute towards that and where they actually put their spending towards. They work with a variety of different organizations and kind of organize it as a whole for our community.
Sounds good.
All right, well, I'll definitely talk to Josh to see, Josh and Kevin to see how we can package something to, because, and we all agreed after the last meeting that the more we can do on the preventive side to keep animals from coming to us, it's a lot cheaper on that front end than it would be to try to house them, feed them, take care of them once they get to us. So I think all of us were on board with trying to find a way to craft something on the front end versus paying a tremendous cost on the back end. I think we all agreed to that part.
Yeah, I think proactive is always a good thing.
Yes.
All right, well,
Okay.
there's nothing else. Do we have anything for executive session? that we know of? Well,
I had just one quick question
Okay.
for you two. Back to the Regent Park. If the culvert, the HOA removes the culvert, are we, that gets us down to like only 2 structures being impacted? Are we absolutely are we looking to do something, or was this, I don't know where we were going with it.
I think the
Once
first
this was
thing
Wait,
done.
to
Tom's
study.
got
Okay,
a statement.
absolutely.
Yeah, I was confused on what our
I
scope
was
is.
a little confused too.
That's
so,
okay.
yeah.
Well, let me try to help out a little bit. Tom Couch, Assistant County Manager, good evening. I think, as I've explained, especially to Councilmember Cloninger in the past, I think it's a little difficult with those 2 culverts. I don't believe you can do one independently of the other because, you know, it's system and flow and so forth. But if we can make the assumption, as has been reported, that the HOA is willing to work on their culvert, and then on the other hand, you've got the county culvert, which comes with a big price tag, right? Now, separating that from the property buyout, that's kind of another issue, but it comes down to money, like it always does. And Jonathan made mention potential FEMA funds. We know the federal government's kind of in flux right now, and until that situation clears up, and the future of FEMA, as it's reported in the news, I don't know that if we can count on that kind of FEMA funding for the county project, and I don't know if they would replace the culvert essentially on private property. But if the HOA commitment is firm and it can work, I was going to give a suggestion that, as you recall, last year, or really this past year, the South Carolina General Assembly suspended what I call legislative directed spending, the E word, but I don't like the E word. But you might, or the council might, or in the budget process, or in our legislative agenda, we could look at asking for LDS if it's available for the county project. And then the property buyout, again, is sort of a different animal. We may have to think that through, and even if FEMA were in the game, or for that matter, the General Assembly, I don't know if their cost-benefit analysis would work on buying out just 2 properties. But it's still something we can look at. But what I really wanted to do to kind of close it out, unless you had other questions, is say that we are committed during the budget process, during the legislative process, to see if we can find solutions for funding, particularly on the heavy price on the county side, and then make sure that the HOA commitment is firm. And while we're doing that, find ways to mitigate property buyout. But when you look at the numbers, you know, you've got to look at them from a sober view. But $3 million is a big commitment. But on the other hand, again, you can't do one project independent of the other, in my opinion, non-engineering opinion. That helps?
It does. I guess the 2 questions I have would be, does the county have a responsibility to remove those last 2 houses out of the floodplain? You know, do we even have to do this project if we decide, you know, we put the money forward, you know, 150-some thousand to figure out that one culvert needs to be removed. So we've helped in that, and the HOA is going to remove that culvert. That removes a whole lot of structures. It comes down to just 2. Are we obligated to do anything? And is this a one-off? Are we developing a program for a one-off instance, or is this something that would be applied or needs to be applied across the whole entire county? Like, are there other houses being flooded that we need to apply, like the flooding buyout to?
Well, I would say with the property buyout, a one-off is kind of hard. I think I've heard Councilman Roddy say, you know, once you open Pandora's box for a new program, you'll raise expectations throughout the county. On the legal side, I'd probably defer to Mr. Kendry, but my non-legal observation would be that we don't have a legal responsibility to do it. I don't think, I don't know of any negligence on behalf of the county that's been committed or that's occurred. You know, it may come down to something more of a moral responsibility if you feel like it. But, you know, again, the flip side of it is, once you start to do it, the expectations will be raised if other occurrences are there. And I'm new. I don't know how old Regent Park is. I It looks like a lot of the housing built was built after we started the MS4 program. But as you know, floodplains change, nature changes, and I think that's why we have to be very diligent in our pre-development practices with, stormwater management going forward, but that's another discussion.
Yeah, and you're right, what Councilman Roddy said was, it kind of triggered this discussion was, I don't, if we fix this culvert, which would be hard, I would be hard pressed for $3 million to save 2 houses, but, then somebody else down the road is gonna say, well, my house also floods, and we've got to look at that one. Also with the flood buyout, if we do this. So it led me, it led me into this, is it gonna grow into something huge, which may be very important, or are we gonna spend a whole lot of staff time and our time debating all this thing that we're gonna do like once every 10 years?
Yeah.
And that's where I just,
A
trying to
lot
save
of
our time,
complex
staff time.
issues that we have to discern.
Well, I had talked to, when you guys were talking about the buyout, I asked the question if there were other areas, other homes in the county that had problems, and Mark indicated that there were. So I don't know details
I wouldn't be
on that.
shocked.
Yeah, yeah. And so it's not just Regent Park, as
Yeah.
far as the buyout.
Right. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
even looking at the floodplain maps, it was, there's more houses right upstream, so,
Oh, yeah.
they're gonna want it.
Yeah,
Or, I mean,
Well, I hope
Yeah.
what I've offered has given you a framework for future
Right.
discussion.
well, and I think they were pretty much, we were leading them to check on the FEMA matching
Mm-hmm.
and all that.
Yes.
okay.
And we'll continue to do so as long
Yeah.
as FEMA remains viable.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
All right, I'm good.
There's nothing else.
Thank you.
We just missed 45 minutes. We went over by 2 minutes. I think that last question took us over. But if there's nothing else, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.